All right, so we're just about ready to run our test. Remember, we're replicating what's on this tab because in the real world, I know we already went over our assumptions here just to give you the examples for them, but in the real world, you're not going to be presented with all that information. When you do a study, this is all you're going to have. So you have your participants, your pre and post. So you need to calculate your dependent variable here, and you also need to make sure all those assumptions we talked about earlier were met. So I'm just going to throw in our median, because remember, we compared our measures of central tendency to determine if we had a normally distributed set of data here, and we also did that by looking at our histogram, which is why we just made one. And then we made sure that our confidence interval was not crazy, insanely huge. So our next step here is to do our t-test. So we're going to click on our data tab. If you don't have this data analysis ribbon, you can find the instructions on how to install this in the Word document for this assignment, or you can Google it. It's super simple. Just go into your options. You're going to highlight t-test paired to sample for means. We're comparing our two means, right? So we're going to hit OK. I'm going to get rid of all this so you're not confused. When you pull this up organically, it'll be blank like this. So remember, we were doing a two-tailed test here. Our hypothesis is that there is no difference in the means, right? Remember, we said we don't care if post-intervention scores are bigger or smaller than pre-intervention scores. We're just testing if there's, excuse me, if there's a difference. So it doesn't matter whichever one you choose first. Again, we're just seeing if there's a difference in the mean. So we can choose pre as our variable 1 range and post as our variable 2 range. Remember, I just said our hypothesized mean difference is 0. Alpha is already there at 0.05. And then your output range is just where that data is going to end up. So this is what it looks like. And don't be alarmed, because I'm going to direct your attention, I'm going to direct your attention to our t-statistic here. Let's highlight this in orange, and we're comparing this to our critical two-tail number. Remember, like I said, we have no directionality in our hypothesis, so we choose the two-tail test because we don't care if it's bigger or smaller. Now take a look at this number. Let's compare it to this. What's the difference? This one's positive. This was because when this t-test was generated, they chose the post-intervention as their first variable and the pre-intervention as their second. We chose pre-intervention as our first and post-intervention as our second. I just did that to show you that there will be a difference. But again, since we are just testing to see if there was a difference in the means, not if it goes one way or the other, it doesn't matter which one you choose first. We're comparing this number to our t-crit value for a two-tailed test. This value is just showing you the threshold for your t-value. So if your t-value is different than your t-crit value here, whether it's +3 or -3, it does differ. So this is your threshold for rejecting your null hypothesis. So -3.23, +3.23 tells us that we are safe to reject our null hypothesis. Our null hypothesis that there was no difference. So we know through this test that there is a difference in means, so we can go ahead and say that we know with 95% confidence that that is true, that there is a difference between our means.